Hello once again, and welcome to my week in review for my no cards build log for Stronghold Kingdoms. Today I'm going to be covering days 86 to 93. Now I understand this is a total of 8 days, and I overshot it by 1 day, so you'll have to forgive me. This is not going to be exactly 1 week as all the other episodes were. Now, one of the most significant changes in the past week is the fact that my house, House 11, has declared war on House 9. This is in part due to some rather draconian and very pretentious, well, they're just ridiculous concession terms that House 9 set for House 16. Now, as you may recall, we were on good terms with House 16 last I checked, so us joining the war, or us joining them in their war effort against House 9 makes us even closer allies. Unfortunately, House 16 is struggling to maintain their presence on the map, as you can see, and of course House 10 at the moment is neutral. Now, House 10 in the past has been very amicable towards House 9, which was a great cause of concern for me because I reside right in the middle of House 10 territory, and I do not wish for our relations to become strained. If you remember, House 10 has a lot of good players in it, and if I ended up in the middle of a war zone here, if House 10 declared on us, I might as well quit the war because there's simply no way that we could win against House 9 and House 10. House 9 taking them on with House 16 is going to be plenty of a challenge in and of itself because House 9 has some very dedicated players who are good and committed to playing this game well, let's say. Okay, so let's cover what I did in the past week, starting with research. Now, in the industry tab, I put points, well, 1 point, into both hunting and carpentry to unlock their respective buildings. The main reason for doing this at the time, I wasn't sure what direction I was going to take, and it never hurts to have a little bit of banqueting goods in your stockpile, essentially, to sell, because they sell for a pretty decent price, and the market is less volatile as compared to stuff like apples. So apples can range from anywhere, or they can range anywhere from 60 gold per unit to 40 to 3. It's quite diverse, the price you're going to find apples selling for throughout the map, whereas I really don't see even venison selling for much less than 100 gold. So regardless of the outcomes, I'm going to be making some gold off of it, or I can use it for donating to my parish to help increase the guild levels. Moving on to military. I only put 1 point into military. As you can see, I have a lot of my military research completed, so the only point I put in was when I increased my level to Marquis, and I researched another slot into leadership, or I should say I researched another point into leadership so I could have my 7th village slot. And unfortunately, I have been unable to take advantage of this recent opportunity, due largely in part to the fact that House 11 declared war on House 9 shortly after I reached the rank of Marquis. Now this might be a little bit different. I'm actually going into the farming tab, and I've actually completed some research in here. Now, it may be disappointing to you at the moment, but I put 1 point into animal husbandry. Now, this doesn't actually unlock anything, so right now this is not benefiting me in any way. But in the future, I intend to research pig breeding and gain access to the pig farms. Now, the pig farms are one of the best food production buildings in the game, and they are really topped only by the bakery. And I intend to make full use of the pig farms in my highland villages because they are, not only are they very small and very productive, but it's very cheap to max all this research out compared to what I would have to do to research bread, for example. So I can go all in for animal husbandry, and I'm not going to really be wasting many points by not utilizing apples or wheat, vegetables. that stuff. Unfortunately, the downside to taking this approach is I'm going to lose out on a productivity bonus that hops would receive if instead of investing additional research points into animal husbandry, I put it into plow instead. Because if I research plow, not only does it increase apple productivity, wheat productivity, vegetable productivity, but the very crucial hops productivity. And it also unlocks brewing later on down the tree, which will allow me to make my breweries even more productive. So that is definitely a downside, but the small size of the pig farm is going to be invaluable in my highland villages, because I'm focusing very largely on highland villages. I like it because you have an immediate supply of pitch, and it can be very effective against the enemy, and it is the perfect village type for somebody who prefers a more passive approach to the game, such as myself. Now, in the past, I know that I've been using only apples. That's been my only food source. And it's quite likely I'll switch to only meat once I finish researching this, because the apple farms take up about the same space as 4 pig farms. So as you can see, I can really make a lot more meat, and I'm not going to be able to balance that out with orchard management unless I'm willing to give up some productivity, which I do not really see an advantage to doing that. So finally, moving on over to the education tab of the research tree, I put 4 points, well, no, I put 3 points into stockpile capacity. It's now been increased by 100%, and I did likewise with armory capacity, putting 3 points into it to increase its size to 400%, and I'm going to show you the real world benefits of doing so. Now keep in mind that I also have engineering maxed by, or have the research for engineering completely maxed out. I have 10 points in it, it's at 200%, and I'm not exactly sure how the percentages are applied. If they're applied on top of each other, or in other words, are they applied in a linear fashion? I don't know. And other people have attempted to figure it out, and I have not really read anything that inspired confidence. It sounded like a lot of speculation, so I'm just going to leave that up in the air and in the hands of people more mathematically inclined than myself. So, biggest benefit for the armory, before I was at 60 capacity. That was the most I could have in here. I'm now up to 150, and as you can see, I've already filled that up, so I should recruit some archers or donate some bows to my parish guilds. And my stockpile is now up to 36,000, which really isn't a whole lot considering I was at about 22,000 without any research, or with the research I've had previously invested into it. So it hasn't really increased that much, but this is going to be very important if I want to build a lot of pig farms, because the price for the base price, I should say, for a pig farm is pretty high to begin with compared to other food type buildings, and it's going to go up exponentially as I build more and more of them. And the person I got this pig farming strategy from, I guess you could say, was a player by the name of Marauder 5000, who was a pretty good player back in UK World 1. That was probably 4 years ago now when I first met him, and I believe I still have a village that he built up. And I would like to show you that in one of my future videos if I get a chance. It is actually a good example of how you can just go all-out productivity for a highland village. Now, I converted this this River 1, I believe it was, to a highland village it was a week ago now. I'm making fair progress with it, although my progress is less than that of the first village that I converted. And this is because I've been spending less time with the game, even though we are at war. Yeah, real life things crop up, and you don't get to always invest the amount of time you want to, which is another reason why my research is currently slowing a bit more than it should. I admit my research is lagging a bit. In the past 15 hours, let's say, I had no research going whatsoever because I was waiting on the honor to be able to rank up to unlock another sub-rank, let's say, because every sub-rank, of course, gives you 3 research points. Now this right here is the village that and I captured from the troublemaking player who thought it was in his best interest to fair vote me out of my parish of bucks right here. Since capturing his village, he really hasn't done anything, so obviously somebody who's either playing the game and didn't know what they were doing, or they're playing as an alt for another player and just wanted to mess with me. So, now this village I'm intending on converting. The main reason for this is I'm going all Highland. That's going to be my strategy. I'm not going to focus on 5 food types. I'm going to focus on lots of weapons, and lots of resource production. I'm going to have lots of stone, a fair amount of wood, lots of iron, and of course pitch. And pitch is going to be great for selling. But the downside of this is I'm going to be focusing only on 1 food type in my Highland villages, and hopefully that will be the pig farm sometime in the near future. So anyway, this village needs to be converted, and I would like to have deleted more of the buildings here, but we cannot procrastinate forever. So I'm going to convert it right now, live on the show. And the reason for this is I've never actually shown people how you go about converting villages. If you didn't notice where I was clicking, I simply click on settings once I'm in the village screen, move on down to the convert current village dialog. And once you click on it, it will open up a screen here listing all the very different village types that you can convert the current village to. It will give you a brief overview of what these village types are good for, what resources they are lacking, and which special resources they include. For example, Valley Side here will add wine. That's a different resource, because Lowland, let's get this straight. Lowland is the base village type. So whenever they have little check marks or little X marks in front of certain resource types, it means that it is either added or subtracted from the base Lowland. So in the case of Valley Side, like I said, you gain access to the vineyards, but on the downside, you no longer will have access to wheat farms, vegetable farms, iron mining, or metal casting or metal bashing. I'm not sure which. Some of them also provide rather unique bonuses, such as the forest. Now, one of the best things about the forest type is it actually blocks off an entire side of your castle. So if you choose to build a forest, the far upper left corner of your castle will be completely protected by a forest, meaning that players who launch attacks, or even the AI who launch attacks, cannot attack that castle of yours from that side. And that can really be beneficial, because normally you have to defend all 4 sides of your castle. So removing that, it allows you to really focus on those last 3 sides of the fence. And I've heard some great testimony from it, but we're not going with the forest. We're going with Highland, because that is what my research is focusing on. Once you've decided on the village type you want to convert to, simply click the icon and the little dialog will pop up warning you if you really want to, or asking you if you really want to convert the village. And it will list the number of buildings currently in the village and the village number, just to make sure that you didn't choose the wrong village. Simply click yes, and you'll see the entire village will be wiped out, just like that. Now, at the beginning, you'll notice that popularity is terrible, so we're going to put down a granary and some stuff like that. I can easily get rid of all these extra peasants because my hovels are missing. I'm just going to recruit some archers. If you don't have troops to recruit, you can always recruit peasants because they don't require any weapons whatsoever, but you have to have sufficient barrack space. So if you have merchants, maybe you might want to disband them to make room for those extra peasants, and that will clear up the village so that you won't have to deal with so much negative popularity. Now I'm gonna build the granary over here. This is generally where I like to put it. I have seen some players put it over here in Highland. Far as the stockpile goes, it can go for anywhere from about here to maybe right in front of the keep. So that's pretty good. It depends upon what you want to focus more on, iron or wood, because if you move it a little bit in front of the keep, you're going to be making a bit more iron. Let's put down, just you put down the basics, and then you can either focus on building up some passive honor buildings around the keep, or go straight for productivity. Of course, placing the cathedral is always a good idea right off the bat, because you're going to be making 100 faith points per day by having that in your village. But I'm going to focus on some other stuff because most likely watching me build a village like that isn't all that interesting. So, moving up to rank, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, I've advanced a sub-rank to Marquis 9th rank. And I wasn't Marquis at all last week. But, so I've since you last saw my progress, I have advanced 3 sub-ranks. And, of course, the price for sub-ranks continues to go up. Since hitting Marquis from Errol, the cost for each sub-rank has increased by 150,000 honor. But of course I get access to another village, and I really wish I could have taken advantage of that, because right now I have 6 villages and I'm running 1 village below what my capacity is. And the only real reason why I haven't taken another is because if you spend a whole bunch of honor and then take a village that doesn't have a castle, it can easily be raised, and that would be detrimental. It would be more detrimental to my progress than simply not controlling a village. It's debatable whether or not I should. I would like to really move one down south a bit more, I believe. That would probably be the optimal placement for it, for both me and my faction. Finally, moving on over here to quests. I completed more quests than I did last week, which should be a little bit inspiring to you, or not. So last week I only completed Rat Hunt number 2, and you saw I was working on Law and Order 5. I've since completed that, as well as Fabulous Host 7, Construction Crazy 7, and Flourishing Trade 5. And I'm currently working on Team Player 4, which requires me to donate a total of 500 packets to my parish guilds. And it doesn't have to be my parish guilds, it could be any guild in a parish that I'm in, or even a capital, such as the province capital. Whatever. You know, it's basically donations to any capital. It doesn't have to be too particular. Unfortunately, I've noticed a lot of the quests I'm receiving are just impractical, such as send 250 hours of interdiction, or destroy 10 paladins' castles. These are very impractical quests. I wish I could have completed Supreme General 1, but at the time I was working on the Bandit Camp quest, I believe, and I might have mentioned that in a previous episode. Of course, the Diplomat ones require you to have research in diplomacy to stop the AI attacks, and it's a random. Ride to Win, like to Win 4, is definitely achievable, as is Robber Baron 2, but I would really like to see more of my AI castle quests pop up, because, I mean, look at this. I already have diamond for the snake and the rat, and I have gold for the pig. I could have easily completed several of those, and I'm not getting any of the AI specific quests. And so that's good on Firefly. They're really making me farm those AIs with very little payback. Well, I guess that's the downside to adding so many quests. And it could be reflective of my playstyle. I'm focusing too much on AIs and not enough on other economic aspects of the game. Because the really interesting thing about quests is they attempt to balance out the research of the inexperienced player. They try to make you more of a well-rounded player. So you try a little bit of everything to complete those quests, and it's a good idea. I mean, I can see the benefit to doing that, to try to get the player more involved and interested in different aspects of the game, because complacency generally breeds boredom, and that's not beneficial for the players or for Firefly. Well, I've rambled on long enough for this episode, I believe, so I just want to thank you for watching, and I hope you tune in next week.
Stronghold Kingdoms. The battle has just begun.